That camel is about to break, folks. It's about to break. So I'm in the back seat of the car. Satan is in the passenger seat. Satan is in the driver's seat. And they are accusing me of being high on drugs. And she's with her usual rhetoric. And I snapped. I snapped. They were going down the highway, 2-lane highway at 65 miles an hour in this huge this huge Oldsmobile sedan. It's like 2 miles long, with a huge trunk that you could bury people in, dead bodies in the back. Well, we're flying down the highway and I snapped. I had had enough of being accused. I had put up with this my whole life. And the last 3 years, the intensification of it, I had had enough. And I literally snapped. When people say they snapped, I snapped. I wanted all of us dead. That was my motive, and that's what we were going to be. There is nothing better than this. So to come from where I came from the womb, where my mother was lying about who I was to my dad, to now, there's nothing like it. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Winter and I'm glad you're here today. I'm going to be doing my testimony. I have decided to do my testimony because I have quite a few new subscribers that may not be familiar with what my background is. So I thought I would share my testimony. It is going to be almost an hour long, probably. I'll try to keep it shorter than that, but it's going to be a long one, but you're going to want to listen to the whole entire thing because it won't be till close to the end that you will find out what God has done in my life to change everything in my life. I first want to read a verse. It's from 1 Peter chapter 5, and it says in verse 8, "Stay alert, watch out. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, searching for someone to devour." That has been the story of my life. Before I was born, when my mother and father were married, they were already alcoholics, really bad alcoholics, before I came along. I have a sister who is 6 years older than I am. She was born practically 9 months to the day after they were married. My father was a philanderer, he was a cheater, and by the time God decided to form me in my mother's womb, my mother had lost 3 babies between my sister and myself because my dad had beaten her so severely that she had 3 miscarriages. When God was forming me in my mother's womb and she found out she was pregnant, my dad had been cheating on her for quite a while. And so, being the alcoholic owned by Satan, she decides to tell my dad a lie and tell him that I'm not his. She was trying to get even with my dad by destroying my life before it was even started. So there was no love lost between my mother and myself. She hated me before I was born, and she continued to show me how much she hated me throughout my life. My dad, who didn't think he was my dad, also hated me, and he continued to show me how much he hated me throughout my life. So when my dad and my mother were married, they had been living together for 13 years before the divorce, but when my sister was 2 years old, my mom walked in on my dad sexually molesting my sister. So my mother knew that my dad was a child molester, but she didn't leave him. She stayed with him, and 4 more years went by, and then I was born. Well, I also was molested from the time I was in diapers, but I had no memory of it, none. When I was 5 years old, my parents got divorced and my dad disappeared out of my life. I only saw him, I think, twice after the divorce, and I didn't want to see him. I remember my sister and I, when he was coming over to get us, we were hiding because we didn't want to go with him. And my sister said to him, when he finally found us and we were getting ready to get in the car, she told my dad, "I don't want to see you in your underwear." So you already we can see that, there's a problem here. My mom met a man, and his name was Vern, and I called him Dad. He was in my life. It felt like it was 10 years, but when I think back on it, it wasn't quite that long. But I was 5 years old when they met, and I called him Dad. They lived together, and my mother she went to work every day. She dressed up in high heels and fancy dresses, and I never thought that we were a white trash family. It never came across as that. I never felt like that. my mom was very sophisticated, and, she always had her lipstick on, and she always had her makeup on, and her, all of that, the whole 9 yards, dressed very, very well. So, and our house was always clean. We had chores that we had to do, that kind of thing. But my mother was just pure evil. She was just pure evil. She would get home from work and she would start slamming the beer back. And by beer 2, Satan had taken over her body, which of course I didn't know that at the time. I know it now. So I'm going to describe the reality of it instead of the fantasy of it. And the reality of it was Satan had taken over her body. And my sister and I would be blamed for everything that was wrong in our mother's life. Everything that had ever happened to her that was bad, from way before we were born, it was our fault. Everything that happened to her, from her birth on, was our fault. My sister was constantly being accused and blamed for everything in my mom's life that was wrong. So we trudge along, and when I was in the 3rd grade, at the end of the 3rd grade, my mother decides to break up with this man that I'm calling Dad. And she marries out of the blue, this person out of the blue that she and my dad had known for years. They get married and he moves us from Los Angeles to Sacramento. So now I'm going to be in a new school. My sister's going to be in a new high school. Their marriage lasted 3 months. And then my mom got an annulment. The only reason my mom married this guy was to make Vern jealous. And it did. It worked. Vern followed her to Sacramento. And so this guy that my mom was married to for 3 months, that's over with. And now Vern is back in our lives, living with us. And I think they get married. I think they got married at that point. I'm not sure when they got married. But anyway, he was back in our lives. My mom is drunk every single day. And I can't have friends over because I never know how my mother's mood is going to be. She was very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When she was sober, she was Mr. Hyde, but when she was drunk, she was Dr. Jekyll. She was evil in her every word that came out of her mouth. And it was horrible living under her roof. We were put down. My sister was told she was fat all the time. My mom would slap her across the face. She was so abusive to my sister, physically and in every way. I didn't get it as bad as my sister did while my sister was living under our roof, because my sister was a scapegoat. There's always a scapegoat that everything gets thrown onto, and that was my sister. So we moved from Sacramento to Reno. I don't know why, but we moved to Reno when I'm going into the 6th grade. So my mom is in an apartment and Vern is there. And my mom comes home from work and my sister isn't home. And she says, "Where is she?" And I tell her she's upstairs. Well, she's with a boy. My mom had a real bizarre way of looking at relationships between boy and girl and men and women. And it was just real skewed. She hated men. All men were out to get her. Actually, in my mother's life, everybody was out to get her. She was so non-trusting of everyone. And I couldn't stand to go into stores or anything with her because it would come out of her how she mistrusted everyone. I mean, she would let people, around her know how she didn't trust them. She was just so evil. So she goes upstairs and this boy's apartment, and I can hear her yelling at my sister. And they come downstairs and my sister had curlers in her hair. And my mother is screaming profanities at her and calling her every name in the book. She's calling her a slut and she's calling her a whore and telling her how no good she is. And she's yanking the curlers out of my sister's hair. And my sister is just screaming hysterically. It was just a horrific scene. I'll never forget it. It was that horrific. Well, then my mom threatens my sister. My sister was 16, with threatening with her that I'm going to move you into your dad's house. And my sister says, I don't want to be here anymore. So my mom decides to call my sister's bluff, and she calls my dad, thinking that my dad's going to say no. Well, my dad says, let her come and move in with me. So my sister leaves, and now it's just mom and me, and Vern is around, but not living with us, I don't think, at this point. So now, because my sister's no longer there, I now become the scapegoat. And everything that's ever gone wrong in my mother's life is now being blamed on me. Everything. when I was a little girl, this person did this to me and it's all your fault. I mean, it was that ridiculous. And I'm 10 years old now. And I went to church every weekend. From the time I was 5 years old, I went to church. My mom made us go to church, and I'm so glad that she did, because it was the only thing that saved me in the long run. And I was given a Bible when I was 5 for memorizing 10 Bible verses. And I had that Bible until my teenage years. So needless to say, I was getting a foundation in God. So God was always a part of my life in the background, but he was never in the foreground. I never prayed. I never reached out to him for anything. He was just kind of there, that there's a God. I knew there was a God, and he was just there. So my mom decides to buy a trailer, and my stepdad, Vern, he moves into the trailer with my mother. And they're having these horrific fights. They fight all the time, and it's constant, and it's nonstop. And one night they get in this horrendous fight in the trailer, and the trailer was 10 by 55. It had a kitchen in the front, living room, my bedroom, which was the size of a walk-in closet, the bathroom, and my mother's bedroom. These two get into just a gigantic fight, and the trailer's rocking because they're slugging each other, and it's just horrible. And Vern comes and bursts into my bedroom, and he's just got blood streaking down his face. He's drunk. Your mother hit me with the phone, and I'm going to call, he's telling me to call the police. But the phone is out in the living room. I'm not budging. There's no way I'm going anywhere. So while these two are married to each other, there is an event that happens, but I'm going to put it in this part of the story right now, but I don't remember it until I'm well into my 30s. But my mother and my stepdad sexually abused me in this little tiny closet bedroom, but I don't remember it until way, way, way later. And then my stepdad abuses me once he moves out and I go to visit him. He sexually abuses me in his little camp trailer, and I don't remember that until many years later. So I'm being sexually abused from diapers up until now, and I'm now 11, going on 12 years old. Well, they finally break up. My mother moves this trailer from Nevada. She moves it to California, which is where we're from, but she moves it way north because my grandparents are living in this little tiny town called Tehama, and my mom moves the trailer to a little tiny town called Las Molinas, and we are living there. And so I'm going to school. I'm now in the 6th grade. So this is the 3rd school of my 6th grade year. I was moved all over the place. I was constantly in a new school. So I never got a chance to have friends or to make friends or to have anybody that would be close to me ever. And my mom is drinking constantly, and every Saturday she would get up and she would pour Old Crow into her coffee cup, and by 12 o'clock she would be falling down drunk, calling me every name in the book that she could come up with, blaming me for everything that was wrong in her life. And then she'd go pass out, and she'd sober up for a while, cook dinner, and then start slamming beer, and then she'd be drunk again and accusing me of now I'm the slut, now I'm the whore, now I'm no good, I'm never going to amount to anything, I'm worthless, no one's ever going to love me. I mean, it was the rhetoric every single day of my young childhood life. To say that I was unhappy is an understatement. To say that I was miserable, I was just so miserable, absolutely miserable. Hated myself because I'm being told how worthless I am. Hated myself because I'm being told how stupid I am. And I'm proving it to her by getting C's and D's on my report card. I couldn't pull a B if I tried. A's, forget about it. But C's and D's and F's, I was good at those. I had dyslexia. No one knew it. So I couldn't spell. Math, forget about it. History, forget about it. Any subject matter, forget about it. I sucked in school. I was horrible. So I thought I was stupid. Just thought I was really stupid. Well, at 12 years old, or 13, somewhere in there, 12 or 13, somewhere in there, my mom meets what was going to become a disaster in my life. And his name was Bob Smith. And he looked like Dopey, the dwarf Dopey. Rubbery face. He was 51 years old. He had a stiff leg. I don't remember which leg it was that was stiff, but he couldn't bend his knee. So his leg was always hanging out in the room that you'd trip over it. And he didn't drink. He did not drink, but he was weird. And we were at a picnic one time, and my mother happened to be sober. And stupid me, in my ignorance, didn't realize that I shouldn't ever talk to her when she's sober because she's going to throw it back in my face when she's drunk. I told her I didn't like the way this guy was looking at me, this Bob Smith guy, who she ultimately moved in with and I think married. I don't know. But anyway, he moves in with us into this trailer, and now he's part of my everyday life and my life after I tell her that I didn't like the way he looked at me. Oh my gosh. It was horrible. It was horrible. So she would get drunk every single evening, every weekend, and he was there just looking stupid. And if she left the room, the living room, to go back to do whatever in the back part of the trailer, if I was alone with him for more than 2 minutes and she came back into the room, I got accused of doing something horrifically sexual with him, and she would be graphic about it. And I had no clue what she was talking about. Or she would tell me that I had said something sexual to him. I knew nothing about sex. Nothing. Even though I had been molested, I didn't remember any of it, and I knew nothing about sex. I was completely innocent. Innocent. Well, this happens so often that I soon learned if I want to survive through this, when she leaves the room, I need to go with her. So I was her shadow. She would leave the living room and I was right on her heels, and I would go into my bedroom and I would just stay there because I didn't want to be accused of stuff I was not doing. That didn't stop it. And the accusations were flying. So now I'm, 13, 14, going on 15. This has been going on now for this 2-year period of being accused of having sex with this guy every chance she got, being accused of being a slut, being accused of being a whore. And then one day when my mother was sober, my huge mistake, I am informed by my boyfriend that my best friend, who's his sister, is a lesbian. And so I go home and I tell my sober mother, I think my best friend is a lesbian. Well, the next time that my mother is drunk, now I'm a lesbian, a whore, a slut, and I'm on drugs. Now, I grew up in the 60s, okay? This Bob Smith guy, I'll call him Mr. Smith, is feeding my mother that I'm a drugger. Oh, she's got to be on drugs. I didn't want anything to do with drugs. I didn't want anything to do with any of that. I dressed very conservatively as a teenager. I was not a hippie. I didn't want anything to do with hippiedom. My hair was long, and that's where that ended, was I had long hair. Well, I'd always had long hair. My mother used to braid it. It used to go down past my rear end. I always had long hair. But now I'm a hippie because I've got long hair. So I'm being accused of being a slut, a whore, a lesbian. I'm now on drugs, and because I've got long hair. And it's every single day. Every single day. My mom takes my purse, says she took my purse to the police station and had it investigated, and they found pot in my purse. She comes home and she's drunk off her butt, and she brings this purse into my bedroom and she's screaming this at me. I took your purse and they told me there was pot in your purse. And I'm sitting there on my bed thinking, I've lost my ever-loving mind. I must be insane. I don't even know what pot looks like. I've never seen it. I've never had anything to do with it. But here stands my mother accusing me of having pot in my purse. I really thought I'd lost it. I really did. So I take this purse and I dump it out on the bed. There's nothing in this purse that would indicate that there's pot in there whatsoever. I mean, I'm living in Crazyville on a daily basis. And it is driving me crazy. I feel like I'm going nuts. I'm wanting to commit suicide. I hope, can I get through to you how serious this is? I don't want to be on the earth. I want to be dead. I hate myself. I have no ego. My self-esteem, zip, there isn't any except negative self-esteem. And then she uses my looks against me and tells me, you've got 2 strikes against you because you're so pretty. Boys, they're not going to ask you out because they think you're too pretty and you'll never say yes. And girls are going to hate you because you're too pretty and they're going to think you're a threat. And she used to rub in my looks to my sister. So my sister hated me based on jealousy because of my looks. So it was just ridiculous what I was going through as a young human being. And every bit of it was Satan trying to destroy my life from before I was born. Every word out of my mother's mouth was designed to destroy me, flat out. So fast forward, they move this guy, Bob Smith. He's a construction worker, and he moves all over the place doing construction work. Well, he gets called to work in a little tiny town called Doyle, California. And we go to Doyle, California, and we are staying in this little tiny dinky trailer behind a restaurant, a gas station, and a motel, which the owner owned the trailer and all three of these entities. I'm there for the whole summer. So I'm working in the gas station, in the motel, and in the diner. And my mother is just drinking. That's all she does is drink. And Mr. Smith and her, all they do is fight. And it gets physical. Well, one day I walked into the trailer and she's drunk off her rear end and he is beating her up. And I am fed up. I'm up to here by now with watching my mother get the living daylights beat out of her by these men. All of the men in her life are beating her up. I'd had enough of it. So I said to Mr. Smith, stop hitting my mother. If you want to hit somebody, hit me. Well, he does. He lays into me. He slugs me in the face. My nose is just gushing blood. He has a garden hose in the trailer for some crazy reason. I don't know why. And he whips it with me. I'm in shorts and a sweatshirt. And he's just beating me on the legs. I had welts all over my legs, gushing blood out of my nose. It's just dripping down my sweatshirt. He takes me and physically throws me out of this little tiny camping trailer. I'm sleeping on the couch at 15 years old and get thrown into the dirt. There's dirt all over my face. The blood is matted in the dirt. My hair's all over the place. And he throws my mother out along with me. Into the dirt she goes, keys and purse out the door with her. She is drunk, but she grabs me, gets me in the car, takes me to Susanville, which is 42 miles away from where we're staying, and has him arrested. I have to leave my sweatshirt with the cops. I have to give my statement. And so they arrest him and they throw him in jail. Well, the straw on the camel's back is getting real close to breaking by this time. I can't get away from him. So now the accusations are constant. You're telling him this and you're having sex with him and you're blah, 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 blah. We get in the car the next day. Why? We're going to go to Susanville and he's getting bailed out of jail. And the entire way, all of the 42 miles that she is driving, she's screaming at me that it is my fault that he's in jail. Why was it my fault that he was in jail? Because I said to him, if you want to beat up somebody, beat me up. That's why it was my fault. She didn't see the fact that I was trying to protect her. I was trying to protect my mother. Oh, no. She couldn't see that. So I'm sitting there being blamed for my being beaten up because I'm trying to protect my mom. And I was devastated. My heart was shattered in my chest. I felt completely defeated, deflated, dejected, anything, name it. That's how I was feeling. I was so just broken. I was broken. I was a broken doll sitting in that passenger seat. So we go on with life. We're going on with life. He gets back. We're going on with life. And it's the same story, different day. So we're getting ready to leave because he's done with his job. Summer is over. And I'm down in the restaurant and I'm saying goodbye to my boyfriend who I was going steady with. And we were going to continue going steady, but I had to go back home. In comes Mr. Smith into the restaurant, yelling at me, your mother wants to see you and she wants to see you right now. And I'm like, oh, good grief. What have I done now? It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I get to the little tiny camp trailer. I walk in the camp trailer and she is so blasted out of her mind that she is swaying and the trailer is swaying right along with her. Her hair looks like she'd spent the morning with a finger in a light socket, just frizz everywhere. Her eyes are completely bloodshot, bags, luggage so thick under her eyes that you could go to Houston on the baggage. And she says to me in her slurry voice, what did you do with my effing hairspray? Only she used the real word. This 15-year-old girl had enough. And I screamed right back at her, which I'd never, ever talked to her this way. I said, I don't know where your effing hairspray is. I didn't touch it because I'd had enough of the accusations. Well, because I yelled at her, she tells Bob to beat me up. So he's got my arm wrenched up in my back. He's shoving me all around and it was just ridiculous. So finally, drunk mother is in the car without her hairspray because she can't find it and still yelling at me about where her effing hairspray is and I have no flippin' clue. That camel is about to break, folks. It's about to break. So I'm in the back seat of the car. Satan is in the passenger seat. Satan is in the driver's seat. And they are accusing me of being high on drugs. And she's with her usual rhetoric. And I snapped. I snapped. They were going down the highway, 2-lane highway at 65 miles an hour in this huge this huge Oldsmobile sedan that's like 2 miles long, with a huge trunk that you could bury people in, dead bodies in the back. Well, we're flying down the highway and I snapped. I had had enough of being accused. I had put up with this my whole life. And the last 3 years, the intensification of it, I had had enough. And I literally snapped. When people say they snapped, I snapped. I wanted all of us dead. That was my motive, and that's what we were going to be, dead. And so I took my fist, and as hard as I could, I hit him in the side of his head, and his head just bashed into the driver's side window. And while it was doing that, I grabbed the power steering and I just yanked it as hard as I could to the right. I repeated that over and over and over again. And the car is just flying down the road. Satan in the passenger seat is just screaming bloody murder. I don't remember what she was saying, but it was about me, and I was crazy and insane, and she's going to kill us all. And I'm like, you're right, lady. That's the plan. And I wanted to kill all of us. That's how fed up I was at the age of 15 with this life. I'd had enough. Well, we go flying all right, but we don't fly into anybody else or anything else. We fly into a ditch. Sand all around us. And we come to a stop, and I was so angry that we were still alive. I cannot describe to you how angry that I had not accomplished my goal, which was to kill all 3 of us. He throws the driver's side door open. He opens the back door and he starts pulling on my hair and beating on me and pulling on my hair and beating on me. Oh, and he just went at it until he was done, and he gets back in the driver's side. And I am just sitting back there bawling and sobbing and pulling on my hair. I had hair this big, a softball size hair in my hands when I got done. My head was tender for decades after this happened. I could barely touch this side of my head. I am sobbing. Now, Satan and Satan are in the driver's seat and passenger seat, and we managed to get out of the sand and back up onto the highway, and I cannot believe I'm still alive, and I'm having to deal with this. And they're going at it again. Oh, she must be coming down off the drugs. We pull into a rest stop on Donner's Pass, pine trees, crisp outside. He gets out of the car and limps his way to the bathroom. My mom gets out of the passenger seat. I get out of the back seat. She goes to the back of the car. Remember, all of this was about a can of hairspray? An effing can of hairspray? Aquanet. She pops the trunk lid. They're sitting on top of everything. All by its little shiny self was her can of effing hairspray, right where she had put it. And she knew now, because she's sober as a judge, going to church on Sunday, because daughter dear just tried to kill her. So she's no longer drunk. And she sees that can of hairspray sitting there, and she knew that she was the one that put it there. And for the first time and only time in her life, she apologized to me. She looked at me and she goes, I am so sorry. And I looked at her dead in the face, and I meant every word of it. I said, you can go to hell. And I turned around and I walked away. There is no God around, but I'm still believing in God. I haven't given up on God. I will not give up on God. I believe in him. But my life was just unreal. So fast forward, we end up going to Ventura because he's got to work there. So it's a new school and all of that. Well, all the way to Ventura, which is a 13-hour drive, I'm accused of being on drugs. I'm accused of all the things. So we get to Ventura. I register to school. I'm in school for a day and a half, and that half day is Halloween. I go home. My mother is blasted. It's noon, and she's falling down drunk. Why? Because she decided to make a chicken dinner that required wine. She puts the quarter cup of wine that the chicken needed, and she drank the rest of the bottle and who knows how much other liquor. So I don't want to make waves. I'm sick of the waves. I'm totally tired of it. I can't kill her. I already tried. It didn't work. I can't try it again. So I say to her, what do you want me to do to help you? Because I don't want to make waves. You're going to make the salad. So I go in and I'm making the salad. Mr. Smith walks into the kitchen. He puts a Coke bottle in the thing, gets 2 Rolaids and walks out. But I'm watching him side-eyed, keeping my eye on him. I get done making the salad. I go to the door. She's got the look. I said, what did I do now? What did I do now? I heard what she said to him in there. I said, oh, really? What did I say? You told him you'd meet him later. All right, I'm done. I'm fed up. Pair of blue jeans, white t-shirt, that's all I'm wearing, my tennis shoes, and I left. I was gone for 4 days. Didn't know where I was going to go, didn't know what I was going to do, but I was gone for 4 days. At the end of 4 days, I come back. If you want to know the whole story, I've written a book. I come back, knock on the door at midnight. She answers the door. Oh, I'm so thankful you're alive, and starts right in on me again. So I turned around and left. I go to a freeway. I get under the freeway overpass, and I'm sitting there. It's November 4th. I'm freezing my rear end off because all I have is my dirty jeans, my dirty t-shirt that I've been in for 4 days. I see this filthy, dirty piece of rug, carpet sitting there on the ground. I'm freezing, so I pull that up over me to try to stay warm. I can't believe this is my life. And I'm watching these cars exiting the freeway, and every one of them's a cop car. And I know doggone good and well, they're looking for me. They can't, and I'm right there. And I'm laughing hysterically, freezing to death under a filthy, dirty carpet, laughing my rear end off because every one of those cop cars does not have a clue that I'm under this freeway bridge. Well, finally at 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't know what else to do. I go back to Flea Central to this horrible, horrific hotel room that is just filthy dirty. And I go climb into the cot. Now my bedroom at 15 years old is a cot in a closet under the clothes and above the shoes. And I climb in my bed, filthy dirty, fall asleep because she's nice to me now. And I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning to a big black cop standing there who I call Shaft in my book. And he's about to take me off to police headquarters. But I tell him I want to brush my teeth. No, I'm not going to let you. And I said, why? Well, you might try to escape. And I said, are you kidding? I want out of this life-sucking dump. Let me brush my teeth. I'm not going to jump out the 3rd-story window because ain't nothing to jump onto. I'm not an idiot. So he lets me brush my teeth. We get in the car. We go to police headquarters. The detective interviews me. I tell her everything that's happened. She interviews my mother. She takes me away from my mother and puts me in a juvenile hall. I'm there for 24 hours, and I find out I'm going to have to move in with my dad. I don't want to move in with my dad. I beg this woman, please don't do this to me. You're taking me from the frying pan into the fire. Can't help it. He's your dad, next to kin. You got to go live with him. And I'm like, oh, great. So now I'm going from California to Colorado. I get on an airplane, flimsy blouse, A-framed jumper over the flimsy blouse. November 6th, freezing cold in Denver, Colorado. I get off the plane at midnight. I walk into the area. My dad is not there, nowhere to be found. And so I'm going over to a payphone to call, where the heck is my dad? I hear this woman calling my name. I turn around and see this little frizzy redheaded woman with chocolate brown eyes, doughy white skin. And she says, I'm your stepmother. Your dad is too drunk to come and get you. I'm picking you up. And I'm like, here we go. Welcome to Colorado. So I get to now another trailer, only this one's nicer and it's owned by her and dad's living with her and they're married and blah, blah, blah. And so I get there and he comes staggering out of the bedroom, drunk off his rear end. He goes, your mother called me and told me you're a drug addict and you're a whore and you're a slut. All the things that I've already been accused of being, he's now saying I am because that's what mommy said. He goes back and passes out. All right, next day, I am alone. My dad comes home at noon and rapes me. Only I don't remember it until I'm in my late 30s. But he comes home at noon and rapes me and continues to sexually abuse me while I'm living under his roof. Verbally and physically, I am being abused by this man. So I meet my first husband, who is my stepmother's son, and he's 21. And he comes over for dinner the first night I'm there. I meet him. He decides to take me out. We start dating. 4 months later, we're married. All right, because I am trying to get away from hell. I am living in hell, virtual hell, I think, and I marry him. Well, I walk right into another hell. He's an alcoholic that I don't know it. He beats me up. He's horrible to me. He's never home. After being married 2 weeks, he says, oh, I forgot we were married. And he stays out for all hours of the night. Well, 7 months in, I get pregnant. He doesn't want me anymore. He doesn't want the baby, none of this. And so it's a revolving door. He meets a girl who's 2 years younger than I am. I'm 16. He meets a 14-year-old girl pregnant with another man's kid. And he wants her instead of me. So now I'm kicked out completely after 2.5 years of marriage. My daughter is only 11 months old. He puts me and her in an apartment and leaves us. No money, no food, nothing. For 2 weeks, here we sit in this apartment. Then he comes after 2 weeks. Let me take her because you can't raise her right now, and I'll give her back to you when, you're on your feet. I have no car, no way to get a job, no way to do anything. He takes her, and then he doesn't bring her back. I don't see her for 2.5 months. I have to go to court to get a right to see her. So I see her. She has no memory of who I am, and is stuck to him like glue, but he's never even changed a diaper. He never fed her. He never held her. He never wanted anything to do with her while she was 0 to 11 months old. But now she's stuck to him like glue, and I'm heartbroken. Absolutely heartbroken. And I'm defeated anyway. I'm no good. I'm stupid. I'm never going to amount to anything. I'm worthless. No one will ever love me. And all of it is being proven. So I leave Colorado. I go to Arizona thinking I can get a job, get a car, get myself together, get back up to Colorado before the divorce is final, get my kid and go. Because back in 1972, I'm the mother. I would have won custody no matter what. I would have had custody of this kid. But it didn't work out that way. I go from Denver to Arizona and walk into a hot mess with my family because that's where they were living now, my mom and my sister. And it was a bad, hot mess. Bad one. I never got the car, never got the job, was never able to get back up to Colorado to get my daughter and take her back to Arizona with me. So the divorce becomes final. He gets custody, of course, because I'm not there. And I call him and I say, I want to know what my visitation rights are. And he says, you don't have any. I said, what do you mean I don't have any? He was lying to me. Typical Satan, lying to me. And I'm 19 now, just barely 19 years old. And I said, what do you mean I don't have any visitation rights? He said, the judge left him up to me and I'm not ever going to let you see her. She thinks that Debbie is her mother and I'm never going to let her know who you are. My daughter died in that moment. In that moment, my daughter died. I didn't think I'd ever see her again in her entire life. I really didn't. I believed it, that I was never going to see her again. I'm 19 years old. I am a disaster. I am a complete and total physical, emotional disaster. So for the next year, I just do everything I can to destroy my life. I was not a drinker, but now I'm drinking. Every Friday night, I go to the bar, I get drunk, and I bring some guy home with me. I slept with 54 guys from the age of 19 to 20. No birth control, nothing. I never got pregnant, and I never got an STD. But every one of these guys turned around and left the following morning. So I'm looking for love. This was my motive. I was looking for love. Well, what does sex equal in my life? Love. Because of my parents abusing me sexually, that is what love is. So in order to get love, you have to give away your body. Well, that's not the case. And I didn't realize that. And so for every single guy that I slept with that just walked away and I never saw them again, I was worse and worse and worse. I was a horrible human being. Just take me, kill me now. I hated me. I hated me with such a purple passion you cannot even believe. Well, at 20 years old, I get introduced to a guy who is a Sunday school teacher. We start dating, and I like him. I'm not in love with him because I'm still in love with my ex-husband over here. I want him back, and I want my daughter back. I'm living in the past, you see. Never do that. Don't ever live in the past. It doesn't gain you anything. I had a nice man in front of me that wanted to marry me, that was in love with me, and I did love him, but I wasn't in love with him. Well, we get pregnant before I get married to him. And so we get married. We are married for 4 years. We have 2 children with each other. And then I cheat on him. And I get pregnant. And I don't know if the baby's his or the guy that I cheated with. We get divorced. I'm speeding this up because I don't want this to take 9 hours and 7 days. So we get divorced. I am now 22. I have 3 children. My daughter, who I don't have, 2 that are with me and 1 in the oven. I have no job, no skills, nothing. And my husband leaves me. So now I'm divorce number 2. And I've got these 3 these 3 children to raise. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Well, I figure out the only thing I can do is go to school to become a nurse. So that's what I do. I'm stupid. So I got to go get my GED first. So I take all the stuff to get the GED. I know I failed it. I know I flunked it. I just know I did. I'm just as stupid as they come. And I go in to get my test score. And the woman is smiling and because she knows how I feel about myself. And she hands it to me. And she says, you not only passed, you passed with a good enough score that you can go to any university that you want. And I about fell over. I said, are you kidding me? She goes, no, I'm not. So I went to a area vocational school to get my LPN, straight A's all the way through. And when I took my state boards, you needed a 350 to pass. I passed with a 675. 700 was a perfect score. Yeah, I thought I was stupid. I thought I was really stupid. And all of a sudden I find out I've got a brain in my head, but I still have no self-esteem, no self-ego. I can't stand myself. I hate myself. I was horrible in my head. Horrible. I still had all the lies of my mother swimming around in my head and believing them. So I get married a third time. And the third marriage is a disaster from the get-go because I wasn't in love with the guy. I had 3 kids. I was working as a nurse, but not making enough money. And I meet him. I marry him because it's more financial than anything else, and that turns out to be a disaster. I married 6.5 years to him, and I end up meeting this guy that I fall head over heels in love with on sight. I mean, the most gorgeous guy I'd ever seen in my life, and I fell head over heels with him, and I knew my marriage was over. I knew it. And so this guy I end up having an affair with while I'm married to husband number 3. I'm doing all the things. I had an abortion when I was in 1980 because the doctor told me if you ever get pregnant again, you're going to die. Well, I get pregnant outside of marriage to some guy I'd slept with. He never even knew I was pregnant. He never knew I had an abortion. To this day, this person would never know that. And so I get an abortion because I'm believing the doctors, not believing God. So I've committed murder. I was a liar. I was a fornicator. I was an adulteress. I was all the things. I had committed every sin you can commit, and I was horrific as a human being. Horrific. I should be burning in the everlasting lakes of hell. God's still there, but he's way on the back burner. I'm not thinking about him at all, but he's trying to guide me. He's trying to push me in different directions, and I'm saying no. The night that I had the affair on my second husband, my gut was hurting so badly the entire time before the act happened. I knew I needed to leave. I knew I should be listening to what was going on in my gut, but I didn't. And I got pregnant, okay? I love that child with all my heart, soul. I love her to death. But if I would have listened to my gut, that person would not exist today. Okay? So, you take the sin with the sin and, you end up with a great thing, but you follow me? God loves every person no matter how they are conceived, and he loves her with all his heart, but she doesn't know it yet. So anyway, I go on. So I divorced husband number 3. And after 2 years of tumultuous, all kinds of things going on, this man and I get married, and he is the love of my life. But there's one thing in this marriage that we have a problem with. He is a sex addict, and I have abandonment issues. My dad walked out on me, and my first husband walked out on me, and I've been cheated on, and I don't want to be cheated on, and I'm afraid. I am so afraid that this man is going to leave me. And he swears up and down he'll never leave me, and he loves me with everything in him, and I know he does, but he's cheating on me in his mind. Porno, he's watching porno. He is, all the things that you do when you're a sex addict. He looked at women like nobody's business, and we would get in huge fights over this. Everything else in our marriage was perfect, absolutely perfect. We had no money problems. We had no problems any other way, but we were really struggling. We were really struggling in this area. It was bad. It was really bad. You reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. And I had sown a lot of adultery. I had sown a lot of sin, and I was paying for it in this marriage, paying for it. Well, this marriage ends in him and my son dying in a car accident. It was his son, but I took him on at the age of 3. Read my book. It's a really good book. They get killed in a car accident. I am devastated. After all the things that I had already been through in my life, to have this happen, I finally thought I was in a good marriage. I thought I was finally going to have my happily ever after. I thought I was finally going to have some peace and some happiness and some joy. No. I didn't get any of that. Because of his sex addict and my sexual abuse, I had to go through therapy. When I was married to him, that's when I found out I had been sexually abused. That's when I found out that Daddy dear had raped me the day I got there because the memories were flooding into me. And that was a roller coaster ride like you cannot believe, going through all of that to learn that I had stuff in my head that I hadn't remembered. That was crazy. That was insane. That was nuts. Read my book. I'm telling you, it was crazy. My brain split in two one night. I mean, it was crazy. But I still didn't have God. I still didn't have God forefront in my life. I was praying now. I was praying all the time, praying in the shower. Take this oppression off of me. I had a death oppression over me. And it was just constantly on me, constantly on me. Well, then my husband and son got killed, and that was taken off of me. That worry, all the things I worried about. I worried about everything and anything. Well, when they died, worry went out the window because I knew I had no control over anything in my life. So they die. I start drinking. I started drinking at the age of 45, and I kept on drinking for 22 years. I smoked pot with him the entire time we were married, and when pot became legal in Colorado, I picked that habit up again, so I was drinking and smoking pot. I'm working at this lab. I end up in a relationship with somebody it was such a Satanistic relationship. First one after my husband and son died. This is many years later. It's now 2015. I'm in this Satanistic relationship with him, and the Lord is really on me now. I'm reading my Bible. I'm going to church every Sunday. I am longing for the Lord. And I'm in this horrible relationship for 2.5 years. Read my second book that I wrote, and all of a sudden the Lord is moving and shifting and things are happening, and he gets me out of Denver and he moves me in to where I am now. And I get here, I know this is God working. I know it is. And I am sick of me, guys. I am so sick of me. I am sick of being negative. Every thought in my head is negative. Why shouldn't it be? Has anybody ever given me anything positive to think about? No. I hate myself. I can't stand who I am. I want to be anywhere and anything but who I am. And I'd felt that way my whole adult life. I always wanted to be somewhere else. I wanted to be somebody else. I wanted to be in a different house, a different marriage, a different place, a different city, a different anything. I was never happy just being me. Could not stand being me. I was dirty rags. I was filthy rags. So I get in this home and I'm here 6 months, and I look up at the ceiling and I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I give myself to you. I give my will to you. And right there is when I really, truly got saved, because I meant it. I had enough of living this way, and I was 63 years old. Well, he started working on me after that. See, that's the key. We try to hold on to our flesh. We try to hold on to our will. And Jesus kept trying to direct me down paths, but I was not listening. Why? Because he wanted to be my father. And I didn't trust my father. How can I trust him? If I can't trust my father, how can I trust him? I don't trust you, God. I'm going to do it my way, because I can't trust to do it your way. And that's exactly what it was. Well, finally, I'd had enough of this. So I started slowly trusting him. I was in the Word. I was in that Word to find out that that Word was not consistent. I was looking for the inconsistencies in the Bible, and I couldn't find any. Could not find any. From Genesis to Revelation, man, I was in every book, every chapter, and I was reading chunks of it. I wasn't just reading verses. I'm reading whole books at once. I'm reading chapters at once, and I'm trying to find the inconsistencies, and there weren't any. And all through the book, it's pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, and I will give you this. If you love me and trust me, I will do this. I mean, it's all through the Word of God. And so I began to trust him, and I began to believe him. And then he started just doing things in my life. I'm standing here one day, and I realized, you put me where I've always wanted to be. I hated the cities. I couldn't stand living in the cities. And when my mom had this trailer, we lived in a little tiny town, and I loved it because it was in the country. And I was living in Denver and didn't want to be there, and I wanted to be in the country. And I'm like, it was an internal prayer that I'd never shared with anybody, that I wanted to be in the country and had no idea how I would ever get there. Well, here I was, out in the middle of nowhere, with the cows and the horses and the country roads. And I just looked at him and I went, you answered a prayer. that I never even said out loud. Well, then he started answering more prayers, and I started trusting him more, and I started believing in him more. And all of a sudden, my brain stopped thinking negative thoughts. I started to feel joy. I'm like, what's this feeling? This was brand new. I had never felt joy before. This is wonderful. And I started feeling peace. When I came into this place and I knew God was working on me, I said to him, Lord, I just want to know some peace before I die. Can you just give me some peace before you take me home? Now I've got peace in my life. I am not negative anymore. I am not hating myself anymore. I actually love who I am. I have literally been forgiven from every single rotten sin I had ever committed. So I no longer felt guilt anymore. I no longer felt shame anymore. And then all of a sudden, but it wasn't all of a sudden. It's been the last 6, 7, 8 years that I have been in this trailer. I was healed. I was healed. All the emotional stuff, all of the garbage that I thought that I was gone. I didn't feel like trash anymore. All of the trash was in a dump heap out here in the middle of darkness, where it belongs, with Satan and his liars that had tried to destroy my life from the beginning of my life. I had complete and total healing. I love me. I know I am awesomely and wonderfully made, and no one can tell me I'm not. When my sister died, the day she died, which my parents had already died, let me go there. I forgave everybody. Every single human being that has treated me like crap my whole life, which is a lot of my family, I have forgiven every single one of them. I mean, truly forgiven and have forgotten it. Like it never happened. It was like it never happened. All the hurt from it, all the pain from it, all of the disgusting feelings from it were gone. Gone. Like a miracle, like you can't even believe. Gone. I don't ever think about it. It never crosses my mind. I am in today. I live in today only. I don't go into yesterday and I don't go into tomorrow. He taught me to stay in today because I can't change a thing that happened 5 minutes ago. I can't change a thing or predict a thing that is going to happen tomorrow. And he keeps me focused on today. I live my life for God. Every single day. I get out of bed, I thank him for my life every single day. I thank him all day long for everything that I have. From the roof to the floors, to my bed, to my furniture, to my dishes, to my shower, to my hot water. Hot water is amazing. I am so grateful, 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 grateful that I have the Lord God as my Savior, and that I am not going to burn in the everlasting pit of hell. That I am going to be in heaven. All the filthy rags are gone. I am white, pure snow in Jesus's eyes and in God's eyes. There is nothing better than this. So to come from where I came from the womb, where my mother was lying about who I was to my dad, to now, there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it. The joy, the joy, the joy. I overflow with joy. That's why I do this channel. This channel is everything to me because Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God are everything to me. They have been my constant companions for the past 8 years. I'm never alone. Even though I have been completely alone, I am never alone. I have the best people hanging out with me all day, every day. And if you think being a Christian is boring, oh, heck no. No, get over that thought. It's a roller coaster ride. And it is the most amazing roller coaster ride you could ever be on. He is amazing. He is mind-blowing. I mean, every day I peel back a new layer of who God is, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible who my maker is and who your maker is. God has completely healed every wound, every emotional scar that was ever put on me. I hope that this testimony touched you in some way. I pray that if you are struggling, get with God. Turn to the Lord. Don't wait 63 years like I did. He was begging me to come into his life, and I was ignoring him because I didn't trust him. You can trust him. You can trust him with your life. He created your life. He created you, and he had a plan for you when he created you. Don't wait as long as I did to find out what that plan is. I am done. I love you with all my heart and soul. I pray that this touched you in some way. Leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Have an awesome day, everybody. Thank you for watching.